Hey all, it's Kobe R. Rice, and I am back again with another creative weekly update. Although, if you accuse me of this not being a weekly update, I would completely understand because I have been gone for the past 3 weeks. It was actually supposed to be a 2 week hiatus while I finished graduate school up, but I actually underestimated the amount of work that I actually had to do and needed to take yet another week to get my graduate school work done, get other things in my life wrapped up, and just finish the semester off really strong, which was successful because I got all A's thus far. I haven't gotten my last grade for my editing film independent study, but I expect that to be like a solid B. But everything else, all A's, fantastic. Not that grades are like the ultimate in importance to me, but they are essentially like the measure as to whether or not we're doing what we're supposed to do in graduate school, at least in this program. Whereas in other programs, like they measure you and your success differently. Like, did you pass your comps? Did you write your dissertation? But for this particular master's program, they have a certain grade requirement per semester and it plays a role in how you're evaluated and whether or not they're going to pass you to the next level. So that's super important. Although, again, it's an MFA program, so the focus should not be grades. The focus should be like the work. But we're in a very special, interesting kind of MFA program. And I'm actually going to talk about that today because, as you might notice, the title of my podcast is extremely controversial and extremely angry sounding for a good reason. Anyway, but we'll get into that in just, maybe a few minutes, maybe about 20 minutes into the podcast. So I'm sorry I've been gone for so long, but we do have at least 3 weeks of backlogged creative updates and, life and professional updates that we have to catch up on. So welcome. Okay, this is episode number 50. Yay! 50 of my podcast. This is the epical. See, on my 50th podcast, I can't even get the damn name right. That's a shame. Anyway, welcome back to the epic, fantastical journey of a Black female sci-fi writer. I am Kobe R. Rice, a urban fantasy novelist, sci-fi, thriller, survival horror, and epic urban fantasy novelist. And this podcast is basically chronicling my journey, my creative journey to sci-fi writer and filmmaker infamy. So thank you so much for joining me and for being on this podcast and just paying attention to it for the past 50 episodes. We've gotten through our first year of podcasting, which is pretty amazing, and I'm really excited about that. This is episode number 50. And I told you guys that this is going to be a bigger episode because, it's our 50th one. And I wanted to make it a special episode where we did something, crazy or fun or whatever. And because I've just been so exhausted and tired, and I just wanted to get this episode out to you guys, and just like for my own personal sanity, because I have to get these things off of my chest and off my mind, I just decided not to really make it special, but to make it a meaningful episode. And I didn't design the title of the episode or the events surrounding the title on purpose in order to make this a controversial or meaningful episode. Events in my life, particularly in my graduate school and professional life, sort of just happened this way, such that now I can talk about these events in this podcast and make this podcast the meaningful 50th episode that I've always wanted it to be. So life just sort of set up everything for me such that this podcast would naturally have been like a meaningful major one. So if you haven't seen the title, if you weren't paying attention, it is literally called I Don't Need Your Fucking Permission, Rereading Shakespeare and Putting the Fuck You Back into the MFA. So for those of you who are not really, on top of the cursing or don't really like it, I'm sorry. You guys sort of know already what my brand is. I don't think I'm ridiculously vulgar, but I do believe that curse words and profanity are a part of the English language that I do enjoy exercising. So this might not really be the episode for you. It's not going to be like chock full of, like a bar full of sailors or whatever. Um, but obviously, if you can't tell from the title of the episode, I've experienced quite a bit of setback and frustration towards the end of my semester in graduate school. So we'll get into that. But the first thing I want to talk about, just to kick the episode off on a really positive note, and we're going to end positively too, so don't be worried about that. New Adult Noir. Not only do I have updates on New Adult Noir, but obviously, guys, I haven't been with you for the past 3 weeks. So in that time, the 25 Days of Box Sets giveaway has launched officially on the New Adult Noir website. That's NEWADULTNOIR.com. So go and check that out. The giveaway has been amazing. It is amazing, and it's just an incredible place to get some fantastic free swag, specifically 40 plus different sci-fi, fantasy, and horror box sets in different genres. So if you're a military sci-fi head, there's something for you. If you're into sci-fi and fantasy erotica, there's something for you. If you're a dystopia lover, an epic fantasy or urban fantasy lover, there is a box set specifically put together for you. As a matter of fact, we have 2 epic fantasy box sets because that particular genre seems to be very, very popular, not only with our readers, but also with our authors in terms of submissions. We definitely have a major big urban fantasy box set that's literally flying off the shelves, the digital shelves. And then we also, surprisingly, have a major box set that's been popular has been our paranormal mystery and supernatural thriller box set, which gives me a lot of joy. I'm super excited. I mean, I didn't expect any of these box sets to fail at all, but I wasn't aware how big the demand was for paranormal mystery and supernatural thriller. And that's one of the big major things I'm going to talk about in just a second, in terms of what I've learned from organizing this giveaway, is looking at genres and what their popularity is, and what readers want and what authors are putting out there. So we'll talk about that. But before we get to that, I just want to again reemphasize to you, we have literally 40 plus box sets available for you for download today at the New Adult Noir website. Don't even bother going to the free book section or the series discovery section or the book bundles section to find your monthly gritties, because literally the entire giveaway, the 25 days giveaway, has taken over every single section of the website. So really, no matter what link you click on, with the exception of our forever pages, which have certain novels listed out by genre that have been on our website, no matter what link you click on, you're gonna find the 25 days of box sets giveaway. So I literally organized a giveaway takeover of my own blog, where this giveaway is on every single major page. So you can click on any link and find it. Go download your box sets. We have 20 all-in-one box set downloads where you literally just click a link and you get, anywhere between 2 to 11 books from authors in those specific genres all at once in one box set. But if you're not really a fan of downloading 10 books at once in a single box set, we also have our Insta Freebie exclusive box sets. So I believe we have 21 or 22 different genre categories that are exclusive to Insta Freebie, and those particular box sets have anywhere between 8 authors per box set up to 30 authors per box set. And at Insta Freebie, you get to choose which specific books in the box set you want to download. So if you're not really a fan of downloading the all-in-one box set, you can always go to Insta Freebie and download the books individually. And so those books will ultimately include the all-in-one download box set books, plus some extra authors who wanted to join the giveaway on the Insta Freebie side, but did not want to put their books into the box set itself. So you have a variety of options, a variety of different ways of downloading what you love in the genres that you love, and I highly recommend that you check it out. The box sets that are all-in-one downloads are basically, I loved the way that I did this personally. You get to see the cover of the box set, but the actual individual books are wrapped in digital wrapping paper, like presents. So you don't, it's sort of a mystery. It's kind of just like if you go into your living room on Christmas and you see a bunch of presents under the tree, you don't know what you're getting, but it's still really exciting and cool to, like, you know, get something, unwrap the wrapping and enjoy it. I did the same sort of trope, I suppose you can call it, for our 25 days of box sets giveaway for the all-in-one box set downloads. But if you're not really one for surprises and you really need to know which authors are in a box set and which titles are in a box set, then feel free to go to the link at the top of the page and download our author list. So it has a list of authors alongside a list of book titles, and then you can find out from there what it is you want to download and what you want to do. But thus far, it has been an amazing giveaway, both for our readers, but also for our authors. So again, if you're a reader, go to newadultnoir.com, go and get your life. It will be closing officially on December 31st at 11:59 p.m. my time. Okay, so that actually means for those of you who are on, you know, Mountain Time and Central Time and East Coast Time, basically you need to get there a couple hours beforehand, so that actually I think that's only California. Actually, switch that around. If you're on if you're on Pacific Time, you need to get to the giveaway a couple hours beforehand on December 31st, because when we shut it down our time, you won't be able to access it. Everyone else in the country and in the world pretty much has like an extra 2 to 10 hours to download it on Christmas, on New Year's Eve. So that's just one FYI. There was something else that I wanted to tell you guys about. Oh, yes. In addition to the 25 Days of Box Sets giveaway, I have organized the 25 Days of Prizes giveaway. So if you download a box set, you will automatically be prompted through your email to, if you want to, join our prize drawing, where we are drawing 25 different prizes for 25 different contestants who have entered the giveaway. And we're giving away anything from cash prizes to audiobooks to swag to Kindle Fire tablets to gift cards to KU subscriptions to Amazon Prime subscriptions. We are giving away literally 25 amazing prizes to 25 different people. So after you download your box sets, you will automatically be sent an email basically to asking you to join this 25 Days of Prizes giveaway. And if you join, you have an opportunity to win one of these prizes. It's just a really nice bonus that we wanted to include along with these free box sets for you guys. Likewise, if you're coming through the 25 Days of Prizes end of the giveaway, you will also then be prompted to download any one of the box sets that we have available. So it doesn't matter what direction you're coming from, you're going to get offered both benefits: joining the giveaway for the prizes and downloading all the box sets that you want. Okay, so let's move along from that, because I have taken up a lot of time with that. But one major thing I did want to say about the new Adult Noir giveaway is that it took up a lot of time during November and also just now in terms of managing it. And it has been well worth it, but it's also taught me some very valuable lessons about sharing the workload. So for one, just FYI, in the first 11 days, we had literally across all of our box sets and all of our books, over 20,000 downloads. And that's not even counting the people who joined the prizes giveaway who hadn't downloaded their box sets yet. So over 20,000 downloads in the first 11 days. Literally, as of 3 days ago, 2 or 3 days ago, we now officially have over 51,000 downloads. And I am literally blown away by the level of success and the level of popularity for this giveaway. And so we're definitely going to be doing this on a yearly basis at New Adult Noir with assistance next time. And I'm just ecstatic. I even set for my authors who are co-sponsoring this giveaway, we have set a goal of reaching over 100,000 claims of the box sets or the individual books in the box sets. And I do believe we are going to meet that goal. And as a matter of fact, I'm due for another calculation across all the box sets as to how many downloads there have been. This is not even counting the fact that we just launched our Facebook ad, and there are still some authors in the giveaway who have yet to advertise the giveaway for the second half of the month. So that's coming up. I believe our giveaway was literally just posted to the giveaway directories that I applied to. So those results will be coming in soon. And then every single Monday, we have a massive social media blast from Daycause, which is a social sharing app, which will amplify our reach even more. And then this is all these things that are pending that should explode our results even more, is just in addition to the various authors on InstaFreebie who will be advertising the giveaway from their end, plus the fact that InstaFreebie has committed itself to advertising the giveaway through their own newsletter. Rather, they're going to advertise the part that is the most beneficial for both parties, for us and for them, which is the InstaFreebie exclusive portion. But still, they've still committed to basically putting those things out there for us so that their readers are aware that this amazing giveaway is happening. And so I say that to say that it was a lot of work and it was very stressful at times, but it was well worth it. I also realized I have a lot of sort of talents that, even though I'm still working on them, I didn't realize that I had. I'm getting a lot better in graphic design in terms of not just only doing advertising banners and things like that, but also, excuse me, had a bubble. But also, I had to basically design the book covers for all 20 of the all-in-one downloadable box sets. And I'm pretty good at it. I mean, I'm not at the level where I can create something from complete scratch, like, create an illustration or whatever. Like, I do have a long way to go, but in terms of like making a basic but like really professional looking book cover, I feel very confident in doing that. This doesn't mean I'm going to start doing my own book covers or offer my services for a fee, but it was just nice to stumble on that sort of growing talent. And I think that's because I have literally been practicing for the past couple of years off and on, and also studying the way that other graphic designers put together their work. There's a clear logic to it. There are clear methods to it. And just by studying what they're doing, I was able to mimic some of the principles of graphic design in my book cover design. And those principles are helpful and they work. So that was an interesting little skill that I stumbled on that, I thought was really awesome. But the thing that I learned, like I said before, is that I definitely needed help with this giveaway, especially considering that November and December were the hardest months of graduate school because I had everything on me. All this grading for my TA-ship, which was OD. We'll talk about that in a minute. A lot of my classes are culminating in these final projects. In addition to culminating into final projects, we're still literally having to do our weekly homework assignments, our weekly readings and things like that. Of course, so doing that, doing TA-ship, of course, me being a mom and not having as much time as I would if I were like childless on the weekend and in the evening. That, of course, leads to a lot of anxiety at times when there are things due. And just so all those things were on top of me. And I wanted to also make sure that the new Adult Noir giveaway was going to be successful and beneficial for my authors who, paid to be a part of this promo. And so in a lot of ways, I had to oftentimes prioritize New Adult Noir above the things I was doing in the program, especially since New Adult Noir is paying bills right now, And so having to balance those things were a major challenge. And I realized that I really should have jumped into the fray and hired a virtual assistant probably sometime around September. Honestly, I should have had that virtual assistant on board, just doing all the stuff that I ended up having to do. I was stuck in a strange place where, because I wanted to make this an affordable giveaway at a nominal fee for my authors, it helped to recruit more authors into the giveaway, but ultimately I charged them $25 a piece to be in the all-in-one box set, which included like cover design, Facebook ads, and everything like that. The bottom line is that even though they joined and they've been amazing and I love working with them, I was not charging enough. Not because I'm haughty or arrogant about what my work is worth, but it just wasn't enough. Like when you want to order custom book covers for 20 plus book sets, you're going to be spending on the low end anywhere between $2,000 to $3,000 if you're ordering like a custom book cover. And that's not even including, for example, a 3D rendering of the box set. So I didn't have to spend money on the box set itself, on the box set 3D cover. But I did end up purchasing 2 covers from my artist, and I wanted to buy more from him because I had told him I had this big project and that I wanted to like hire him to do all these covers. But ultimately, I just didn't have enough money at my disposal to like create, to hire an artist to create these covers. So I ended up having to do it myself. And luckily, they came out looking really great. But it was a nerve-wracking situation because ultimately at $25 a pop with, I think we have about 85 authors, that just wasn't really enough to cover all of the expenses of the giveaway. And this includes not just Facebook ads and book covers and 3D covers and stuff like that, but it also just like includes my time. That's also something that I also underestimated was that, and I didn't mean to deliberately underestimate it. I just didn't realize it would take 3 times the amount of time to put this stuff together. And so I ended up kind of like, unfortunately, suffering in that I didn't have the money to buy covers or to buy many other things like graphic design and stuff like that for the banners and whatever. And I had to scrounge to get money for that at the end of the day. But like so I had no money, but I also had like 0 time, you know what I'm saying? Because I was in graduate school. So, and you guys know that my philosophy is if you're not spending money, you're going to spend time. If you're not spending time, you're going to spend money. The unfortunate thing about both New Adult Noir's giveaway and graduate school is that it leaves me with neither. So it was like pretty impossible, but I pulled through and things are going great. But that's just something I'm keeping in mind when going into 2018 with regard to how much I'm charging for my promotional services, especially if they're really garnering some amazing results. I mean, I haven't had a single giveaway that has attracted any fewer than 2,500 subscribers. And authors are literally only paying $10 to get a really highly engaged, high quality, high integrity subscriber list from the giveaways that they participate in. And I am happy to provide those. Absolutely. But I do want to start charging what those are worth. I mean, if you could pay each month $10 and get 25 unique subscribers on your list, I mean, like, that's pretty much a steal. And I noticed that even though I was charging what I consider to be very reasonable rates for high quality, high quantity, and high integrity lists, there were some authors who were still complaining about certain things, about the lists, about the way the giveaway was run, even though honestly, like 99% of my feedback is positive. I'm not going to front on that. But, what I realized is that there are some authors who are going to feel certain ways about how you do things, or certain customers who are going to feel that way. Certain customers who who honestly, I noticed like some authors have like some interesting control issues. And this is actually not surprising to me too much. It was just surprising that these control issues manifested within the giveaway space. A lot of them, not a lot of them, but the ones who were like trying to sort of take over the giveaway or tell me what I should do. And I don't mean in a suggestive way. I don't mean in a, hey, have you thought about this way? Why haven't you done this? And you need to do that sort of way. Like very arrogant. And I realize that this is because now that authors are so in control of their own careers and their own trajectories, a lot of us can't really relinquish that control, even though the entire point of joining a promotional giveaway is that you're putting a certain amount of control in the hands of the giveaway organizer. And I am a damn good organizer. And again, I don't say that out of arrogance, but I am confident in my organizational skills. Like I said, my giveaways attract no less than 2,500 unique, high integrity, high quality, highly engaged subscribers. And that's the low end. The high end thus far, like as I said to you, has been now over 50,000 across all box sets. So you can't, for me, like I'm definitely open to taking suggestions. I'm definitely open to like making things better and to improving my services, but you'll never be able to tell me that I'm not good at what I do. And I just started doing this a few months ago. So, but you know, a lot of authors are not used to handing over their temporary futures to someone else who's organizing. And so sometimes they want to sort of get in and tell you what to do without really even putting in the work of, you know, helping you organize the giveaway. And so interestingly enough, aside from all the work I had to do, aside from realizing that I didn't charge enough, I also realized that it's important to put up some boundaries. And it's important to put your foot down while also remaining open and flexible and receptive to feedback. And also if you have more than one author complaining about something or saying something, then you need to fix it. For me, it's the Trinity rule. If you have one author complaining, usually I listen, but I kind of dismiss that, or I let that hang in the ether. There's two authors complaining about the same thing, I'm paying attention now. But I'm not usually ready to make major changes because it's not uncommon to have two whiners in any sort of major group of people who are trying to do something. But then if you have three people who are saying there's a problem or there's something that is missing, I'm changing it immediately. They say, you know, two people or two things are a coincidence. Three is a conspiracy. Or I don't really like saying conspiracy, but three means that there's something important that you need to pay attention to. So one of those things that I had to improve on was that some authors and some readers did not like the fact that they did not know what was in the mystery Christmas gift wrapped box sets that we have for offer on during the giveaway. And so I had to then go back and make a list of authors and titles for those people who just really did not feel comfortable downloading books that they didn't know what they were about, even though there's really no risk to downloading them at all. But you know, the fact that I had two authors and one reader mention to me that they didn't feel comfortable downloading any books unless they knew what was in the box set, I was like, okay, I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna upload a list for you guys, for those who want to see a list, and then we'll move on from there. So those are sort of my takeaways from running New Adult Noir. And I actually, just to sort of segue, after I finished doing the majority preparation for this giveaway, I did go and hire a virtual assistant who happens to be one of my best friends. And I'm going to talk about that in just a few minutes. The experience itself was okay. There were some things that I think could have been improved on both ends, for like in terms of me as a manager and as an organizer, and in terms of my assistant who you know, was doing some of the tasks. So it was actually a good way hiring her for some social media stuff, for some blasts, for some, you know, I actually also asked her to attend a social media webinar because that's becoming a bigger point of interest and concern for me going into 2018. So I asked her to attend this webinar on my behalf and take notes, and I paid her for that. So I was really sort of being flexible and testing the waters as to what is important for me to get done, and things that need to get done, but I either have no interest in doing, or I don't have really any time to do. So we'll talk about virtual assistants a little bit later, but it was a really great way, in my opinion, to test run what I will be doing in 2018, which is hiring a team of anywhere between 3, probably to a max of 5 or even 6 virtual assistants, some of whom are going to be domestic and others of whom are going to be overseas for a variety of reasons. So that was very, very interesting, a very interesting experience, and really helped to open my eyes. It's become, that particular giveaway and New Adult Noir as a whole is literally my major point of pride for 2017. And again, this is just a weekly creative hustle update for the past 3 weeks. I'm not going to try to get into like a massive summary for the entire year, but I'll let you know right now that New Adult Noir is my crowning achievement for 2017. And I'm just really happy that we're ending the year on such a strong note with this amazing giveaway. And I can't wait to do my 2017 wrap up, because then I'll have the final numbers on the actual giveaway itself as to which genres were the most popular, how many downloads we had, how many new subscribers came on. I mean, it's going to be really amazing. But just a quick sort of point out here, because I mentioned this earlier, urban fantasy, epic fantasy, paranormal mystery, supernatural thriller, and paranormal romance really sort of stood above the cut for the most popular genres. And I am not sure exactly if that is because of the kinds of lists my authors are advertising to. If, you know, for example, the lists are skewed more in the fantasy direction rather than the sci-fi direction, or if that is just, for example, the way that the industry is set up and the way that the genre popularity is set up in, you know, in reader world right now. I'm starting to think that what I'm seeing in my giveaway is actually being reflected in what's actually going on in the reader world. Because even on Insta Freebie, wherein I really have no control as to who is getting access to those giveaways, I'm seeing the same trends. Paranormal mystery and supernatural thriller are insanely popular. That and urban fantasy and epic fantasy are my 3 most popular genres. So what made me feel good about New Adult Noir, and I'll say this before I transition into talking about Rebel Ragdoll more, is that I feel very much that I am on the right track with regard to the genres that I have chosen for my own career. I'm writing epic fantasy / urban fantasy, so it's epic urban fantasy. I'm also, and that's like the Books of Ezekiel series. The urban fantasy that I'm writing is sort of a mix of urban fantasy and crime noir. That's the Hitman of Happily Ever After series. And also I'll be working on shadow development, and I'll be shadow writing a paranormal mystery / supernatural thriller series called The Forever Files. Now, mind you, I know I'm all over the place with my writing and my projects, but this is something that I'm not planning really to dive into deeply for publishing next year. But based on the new changes that I'm making to my publishing, writing, and release schedule, I've decided to shadow develop a lot of projects, and The Forever Files is one of those projects. And so Forever Files is going to be on point because it's a really great mix of paranormal mystery and supernatural thriller, but it's also a nice hefty mix of fairy tale, like urban fantasy retellings in a lot of ways, because this is basically about like a fairy tales gone bloody, fairy tales turned serial killer essentially, and this sort of literary / cop team having to track down these serial killers who are killing people based on their twisted interpretation of certain fairy tales. And so this is something you could set in a real world environment, but I've also chosen to set this serial killer, fairy tale genre in my in a urban fantasy environment. So the Forever Files, The Hitman of Happily Ever After. There's another series that I will be working on later called the Godsman series. And those series together they actually take place at the same time in the same world. So it's a low fantasy, urban fantasy world with all these series going on that interconnect with one another, but that stand alone still. And so the Forever Files is about this detective team that put itself together in order to stop this rash of serial killings by either humans who are emulating twisted fairy tales or actual fairy tale characters who have just gone, completely off the rails and are basically using people as their own physical interpretation of like a twisted fairy tale. It's going to be amazing. I already have the first 8 books, not outlined, but conceptualized. And so that's something I'll be developing in a sort of shadow development way over the next year or two. And if I'm lucky, I'll be able to release a novella, like a prequel novella in that series in 2018. But I'm not going to make any promises I can't keep. But I say all that to say that every single one of my projects falls into it sort of naturally happened. It fell into these 3 categories that are apparently very popular already. So I feel really encouraged by that. And with that, because that's sort of like a nice little segue, I'm going to talk about what I've done for Rebel Ragdoll and my projects in the past 3 weeks. So that was New Adult Noir. Check out our stuff. Check out our giveaway. Now we're talking about Rebel Ragdoll. Okay, so as I mentioned to you guys before, there are going to be a few projects in shadow development. But actually, I recently witnessed this amazing I have giveaway on the brain. This amazing preview of a video game that is coming out, or that is already out, dealing with artificial intelligence, robots, and the usual sort of through line that we use when it comes to robots and artificial intelligence. Like, are they human? How do we treat them? Can robots actually have feelings? Are they real? Are they not real? Even though they're wearing our faces. Like, there's a game called, I think it's called Live Robot something. I don't know. If you guys have seen, this is horrible. Let me actually look it up really quick because this is just ridiculous. Kara video game. If you guys have seen this amazing scene from Quantic Dream called Kara, it was a beautiful, maybe 5-minute short story essentially, but rendered in a 3D video game space of this robot that is being put together, being activated, and she has a human face, and she believes that she is human. And when she says that, the mechanic who's putting her together starts taking her apart, and she begs him for her life. And it's just honestly, Kara, Kara, go look it up on YouTube, by Quantic Dream. Kara by Quantic Dream. Look it up. It's a beautiful, 5-minute, 5 to 7 minute scene. And you'll get your life. It's gorgeous. It really impacted me emotionally. I have it in my inspiration folder for when I need inspiration for my own work. They have gone from that one scene to developing an entire video game called Detroit Become Human, which is that's the dumbest name I've ever heard, but whatever, which is why I couldn't really remember it. But either way, I've seen cutscenes and I've seen gameplay from this game. The game is amazing. The game is really, really incredible, and it's also very emotionally charged and emotionally impactful. I mean, again, the storyline itself, the basic premise is not anything new, but the way that they're executing it by combining these robot and human stories is amazing. And so I say all that to say that I had seen that video game gameplay recently, and just for whatever reason, one of the projects that's been sitting on my slate for a while called Raiden, Rydeen, Raiden's Lot, which is about robots and AI and things like that. I was walking to school, and I guess maybe like those gameplay trailers had a major impact on me or something, but like suddenly the whole backstory for the main character, Raiden, basically came into my mind. So I started developing that very briefly, nothing crazy, because I just have so many projects I can't focus on all of them at once. But I just took note that that part of my brain, that part of my project slate has apparently been activated in some way. So I expect that my subconscious will be working on it and developing it over the course of the next year or so. But honestly, Raiden's Lot is not even gonna get any airtime or play whatsoever, probably until 2020, the earliest, because I just have like so many other series happening right now. So I did that. I did develop Raiden's Lot a bit more, and I'm actually really excited for that premise, but I'm not really ready to completely transition into the sci-fi aspect of my writing career quite yet, because I haven't really worked out the current series I'm working on, and I just want to get those more established. But, you know, as you notice, most of the stuff I'm working on right now is either epic fantasy, urban fantasy, you know, paranormal mystery, which is, again, still set in an urban fantasy context, or some mix of the three. I think the closest project to like being sci-fi would be the Asylum trilogy that I am working on actively. So who knows where that will lead. I will be publishing the Asylum trilogy soon, but in terms of after that's done, maybe I'll be more like sort of primed for working on more hardcore sci-fi stuff. But for now, I'm dealing a lot with like fantasy and things like that. Speaking of, so graduate school, and I'm going to get into more detail about this in a few minutes, but one major great thing has come from graduate school, and that has been the fact that I have decided that I want to do a 6-film adaptation of Shakespeare's, what I call the Roman history tetralogy. All right. For me personally, and this is going to fly in the face of many scholars' interpretation of Shakespeare, and I don't care, but we'll get into that again in a few minutes. But basically, if you look at the body of Shakespeare's work, you'll see that he has written 4 what they call Roman plays. Those plays are Coriolanus, Julius Caesar, Antony and Cleopatra, and then Titus Andronicus. Okay. And I personally, after studying Titus Andronicus this semester, made some very interesting and fascinating discoveries, not only about Titus, but also about Shakespeare's work on the Roman plays. And now, again, I'll talk to you guys about this in a few minutes when we talk about graduate school. But this research and these discoveries that I made on Titus and his other Roman plays have led me to put a new project on my slate, which is I haven't put out a name or thought of a name for the entire 6-film series, but basically I want to adapt Coriolanus, Julius Caesar, Antony and Cleopatra, and Titus Andronicus into a crime noir magical realist adaptation, kind of like Shakespeare meets Sin City, basically, is what I want. And even though it's based on 4 plays, so there should be like only 4 movies, right? I feel as though there is enough material both in the history of the Roman Empire and in a lot of the implications of his work to create a prequel and also an ending piece for his series of plays. So, and this is also, again, me sort of stretching out into writing in the vein of Shakespeare, using sort of Shakespearean language. Whether it will be done well or poorly, who knows, but that project essentially is going to be a mix of adaptation and alongside a mix of original screenwriting. Again, adapted to a crime noir, thriller, magical realist context. Again, Sin City meets Shakespeare. So that's a project that has made its way onto my slate. I'm excited to work on it, but that's not something I'm going to be working on probably until after I graduate grad school for a variety of reasons, and we'll talk about that. Again, I don't need your fucking permission. And I'll leave it on that note, because after I talk about Rebel Ragdoll, we'll get into what has been going on in graduate school and why I have an attitude with regard to that project towards graduate school. A couple other things I've been doing for Rebel Ragdoll in the past 3 weeks. There's a lot here. I'm sorry, guys. It's going to be kind of like a long podcast because I haven't been here for, a few weeks. So, yeah, just bear with me. Marketing. And probably because I've just been so busy and not paying attention, but I am just now really starting to discover that there are business accounts for social media outlets like Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter. I sort of latently knew that these existed, but I just never had time to dive into those accounts and dive into those aspects of using social media. But because now I'm out of graduate school, I've been doing more research on creating actual business accounts for Rebel Ragdoll's social media outlets, and basically trying to take Rebel Ragdoll to a new level by integrating the business itself with the actual software, social media platforms, and other solutions out there that are there to help businesses that are small to medium to large to grow their brand and their base. And so, having said that, I opened a Facebook business account for the entire Rebel Ragdoll Empire, and just setting all that up has taken a lot of time, but it's also been very educational and also very helpful. I really have enjoyed the business solutions that are out there for small businesses, and I'm going to continue to explore those options, not just through social media, but through other venues. I also recently discovered Asana, which I'm in love with. I've heard of Asana, but I just never had time again to really get into it, especially because this has been like a team of one for the past few years. And so now that I'm considering having more people on my team to manage social media, other outreach, to put together landing pages and things like that, I'm using Asana to track all the projects, assign this, assign that, I'm setting it all up for my future virtual assistants so that they have an easier time with basically, managing this sort of behemoth, I think it's behemoth, managing this growing behemoth that is Rebel Ragdoll. And I don't mean behemoth as in like financial. I just mean behemoth as in like a pain in the ass with all the things I want to do. So having said all that, I've been doing more with SEO and pixels and retargeting and tracking and, all these things that help cold leads and cold readers to come back to your business, to come back to your web pages. I've been doing research on all of that, implementing all of that for Rebel Ragdoll, especially for the properties that we have out right now, which are for basically The Given, The Taken, the audiobooks that we have, and also for the new Adult Noir blog, because I want people to sign up to that. I also did a massive update of the new Adult Noir blog itself. Aside from the giveaway that's happening, I decided I wanted to move away from series discovery and move towards developing a listener base for audiobooks, because that is really I think the fastest growing part of the indie market right now. Now that the indie ebook market is stabilizing in the United States and the UK and Canada, the sort of next big move from what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing is for audiobooks, and also for spreading the ebook and audiobook fever into different countries with different languages or whatever. So this actually makes me feel really excited about where the industry is going, because we sort of hit a maturation point at year 10. I came into, publishing really in like the beginning of its 4th year of being around, ever since Amazon opened up KDP Select, or KDP, in 2009. I came into the game at the end of 2013, at the beginning of early 2014. So I've only been around for about half of the revolution, but I've been paying attention the entire time. And it is hitting a point of maturation and like a sort of a cruising altitude. So when things start to level off, obviously Amazon and all these other companies are going to start looking for ways to continue to expand their brand and their business. And the next horizon, honestly, is foreign rights, getting the ebook fever and the audiobook fever into different countries outside of the US, and also audiobooks. There might also be a move towards augmented reality and how that can play a role in the new ways to read, but we will see. I see some authors already trying to be at the forefront of that through these really great boxes they're putting together with augmented reality aspects to them, which I think is amazing. So we'll see where that goes. So basically, I've just been, trying to expand my social media real estate, trying to become more serious about the online real estate that my business inhabits, which includes websites, its blogs, and its social media outreach, as well as podcasts and vlogs, like any sort of video media, with whether it's short form or long form. I consider every single permutation of digital media and digital space to be a part of Rebel Ragdoll's digital real estate. I'm going to talk more about that next year, about basically, how to diversify your real estate portfolio, your digital real estate portfolio, if I see some success in the methods that I'm taking. So stay tuned for that. So I also sat, I had some time after grad school was over to sit a few creative university classes. You guys know I have my own personal creative university. So I finished Gordon Ramsay's masterclass in cooking, which was incredible. And I'm actually gonna go and test out his poached egg recipe in about an hour. So I'm super excited about that. That has nothing to do with Rebel Ragdoll. This is like my personal creative growth, and I was getting my life because it was an amazing class. But on a more serious note, I also started to sit 2 other classes, which is crazy because I already have 2 other classes open that I have to finish. I have to finish Aaron Sorkin's masterclass on screenwriting and Shonda Rhimes' masterclass on TV writing. So those I'm still working on. But then I also started to sit J.A. Huss's The Perfect Story class, which is going to be a great class. I already sat 1 of her 10 lessons. And I'm not learning anything majorly new thus far, but we have to see what's happening in the rest of her class. But the thing that's important for me is that she is coming at this from a romance, a very successful romance and erotica author perspective. And so for me, that's important, who's trying to eventually develop a secret pen name, which I will not reveal on this podcast, who writes contemporary romance, sci-fi and fantasy romance, paranormal romance, and erotica of all different, kinds. And so even if I might not use a lot of these tactics that J.A. Huss is putting out right now, I will definitely end up referring back to my notes on this class when it's time for me to bring out that secret pen name and write some good romance novels. So this is going to be helpful for me. And I just love J.A. Huss. You guys, if you've been paying attention to any of my podcasts, you know how much I admire her, not only as a writer, but also just as a successful independently published author who busts her ass and earns every penny of the thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars she earns from her work. I also started to sit what's called the Digital Underground cryptocurrency course. It was a 3-day essentially like masterclass on cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. And I have the videos, and I've only been able to sit the first video, but I want to sort of go through with like a pen and paper, taking notes so that I can start to understand much more about cryptocurrency. Because again, as I mentioned to you guys before, being an artist can be very challenging in terms of making sure you have a really great nest egg, making sure that, you're investing your money so that you can build wealth as an artist, so that you're not a starving artist. And for me, investing in cryptocurrency is definitely something I'm interested in. I'm trying my best to stay away from the frenzy and the craze that is currently around cryptocurrency, because, Bitcoin is hitting like record highs or whatever. People are trying to say that like it's not a bubble, and I can't see how that's true. Bitcoin, in my opinion, can't possibly just keep going higher and higher and higher without coming back down. As a matter of fact, Bitcoin actually crashed, quote unquote, crashed recently. And it's probably going to stabilize at some point. I'm not an economist, but it's just sort of like the way of life. I don't know any stock that consistently, or not even stock, but any investment that consistently just like makes more and more and more and more and more money without ever having any dips or coming back down. Generally, though, if you look at investments, they tend to grow over a longitudinal period. And so that's been proven, but there's no reason to believe that Bitcoin is going to continue to shoot up into the stratosphere without having any sort of interruption in its ascent. And we've already seen that in the past week or so with the quote crash of Bitcoin. Now, this is not for me to say that I'm not saying that you should not invest in cryptocurrency, but for me personally, I'm trying to be very wise about which cryptocurrencies I want to invest in. I really want to get in on a cryptocurrency that's on the ground floor, that is doing something unique, that is going to eventually become a point of interest and concern in 5 to 10 years, such that if I buy at like, $100 a coin, then in 10 years, I'll be able to sell it for $10,000 per coin or something like that. So I'm not trying to, get in when it's high and just to see the value of it drop. I'm really trying to study and figure out which coins are the best to invest in and which currency is the most viable. So you might again ask, why is this a part of your creative training? Well, in order to do what it is I really want to do with my own career, but also like my company, Rebel Ragdoll, I need to have assets. And this is just one of the many ways, in addition to investing in stocks, mutual funds, putting away savings, get Roth IRAs, investing in real estate, building a business. This is just one of the very many ways that you can start to use in order to, improve your investments and your financial viability in the future. All right, I'm going to take a break and I'll be back. Y'all, sorry about that. I had to not only take a break because my phone was ringing, but also because I just needed a minute where I just wasn't talking. I still honestly have not completely recuperated from my insane semester this semester, which is fine because I've literally only been free of my semester for the past 2.5 days. So anyway, I was talking about cryptocurrency investments, real estate, things like that, in order to, again, diversify and just start building a portfolio of financial investments and nest eggs so that not only you as a person can feel comfortable, but you as an artist. Every artist's greatest dream is to be able to literally not have to worry about money, rent, and food and their children's futures, and have all that taken care of while they get to sit and make their art all day. Whatever it is, whether they want to just dance and put on shows, whether they want to direct the stage or the film, or they want to write, or they want to paint. Every real artist's dream is to be able to do what he loves to do and have it not feel like a major chore. and to keep the passion alive for that thing. So I see my attendance of this digital underground cryptocurrency course as another step towards financial independence, or what Dr. Boyce Watkins calls the financial Juneteenth. And yeah, so that was actually my stepfather, who basically called to tell me that, because we're like-minded, that he is buying my daughter's stock for Christmas, and which I think is incredible. And I hadn't actually, I've already started to invest on my daughter's behalf, but I hadn't really considered like buying her stock for Christmas. And I think that's just something I'm going to do. It's crazy because it's like Dr. Boyce Watkins, who, like I adore in terms of like his very revolutionary and different perspective on how to build wealth. Not really different, but just like the way that he's taken common principles and is translating them to help us understand and act on those principles. He's been telling me, not directly, but like through his work, that it's good to buy your kids stock, which I've been doing, but I never put together that like that's something I should buy specifically for special occasions like birthdays and Christmas. And he's even actually suggested that directly, which is, I don't know. Anyway, sometimes when you're a little too busy, you don't pay attention as closely as you should. But so I will also be doing that. What I was originally doing for her was to like buy books and things that are like educational, but buying her a piece of a company is also an amazing gift, even if she doesn't understand it right now. She'll be getting also like, some toys that she loves. She loves Dino Trucks. She loves Play-Doh, that kind of stuff. But making that a ritual and a part of the wealth building strategy for myself and for her is something I definitely want to do. So again, just because I'm an artist doesn't mean I have to be starving, and it doesn't mean I have to be ignorant and foolish about the ways in which I use my capital, the very, sometimes limited capital that we have as artists. So sitting that course, I highly suggest you guys find that course online as well. You'll probably have to join the Black Cryptocurrency Investing group on Facebook. Definitely look that up and check it out. And then you should have access, at least temporarily, to those cryptocurrency courses if you're interested as an artist. Another big major thing I've been doing over the past couple of days specifically has been doing a major summary wrap up of all my creative achievements and lessons and things like that from 2017, as well as preparing my goal list for 2018, which is literally, oh gosh, can I do the math on this? More than six times the size of my 2017 goal list, which is insane. Excuse me, and crazy, because I only really tend to get 4 massive goals done per year, but they're like really big goals, like establish and create a sustainable company. Like that's a big goal. So I don't feel bad that like I didn't get, all these other goals done because I created a sustainable company. But I'm usually only able to get like 4 of those kinds of goals done during the year. And now I have like almost over 50 goals in different areas of my business and in my life that I want to get done at various levels. Some of them are really small, others are massive. So I've been preparing all of that because, like I told you guys before, this is like my favorite part of the year, where I get to kind of slow down, relax, engage in a lot of self-care, a lot of sleep, a lot of good food, but also get to reflect on how hard I've been working and the accomplishments that I have basically been able to realize in my creative life and in my personal life, as well as looking at my failures and my successes and being able to then pivot and figure out what I want to do for 2018. So I've been doing a lot of that in the past couple of days, and that will be going on pretty much for like the next week until I'm ready to publish those 2 posts. And those also will be big vlogs and big podcasts. So you guys will be getting let's see, so towards the end of the year, you guys will be getting episode 51 on the 25th on Christmas Day, but then on that same Sunday, on the 31st, you'll be getting the 52nd episode of the podcast, which will end 2017. And that 52nd episode will be the 2017 roundup. So yeah, that's what's basically happening. Another major thing that's been going on before I get into like the real tea, the real freaking tea, which is graduate school and how it's been annoying the crap out of me, is that I have definitely been on the track to becoming a much better director, through a lot of failures, actually. And, the failures are not something that make me feel good inside of my chest and inside of my heart and my spirit, but they certainly have been teaching me a lot, and that is the important thing, through some successes and some failures. And a lot of those failures I realized in my contemporary trends class, but a lot of my successes I also realized in my contemporary trends class. One thing that has come out of my sort of directorial experience and sort of that growing experience from this semester has been that I have become even more self-motivated in conceptualizing my projects that I want to direct in the future and making great connections and alliances with other people with whom I want to co-direct or co-create projects. So two projects that I'm actually working on, I started work on this month, that I will be co-directing, co-creating, and co-dramaturging on are the MLK Day event, in which me and my co-creator, who is amazing, Teray Fowler Chapman, she actually has written an amazing book called Bread and if you are anywhere in the digital space, you need to look up Bread and it's the ampersand and not BREAD it's BREAD ampersand. And look it up. It's an amazing chapbook of some wonderful slam poetry, and it's incredible. It's impactful. I love it. It's powerful. And so she will be performing that on stage during the MLK Day event in January of 2018, and I am essentially helping her to put together that performance as like the co-director, co-dramaturg. But she's definitely the writer and sort of like the primary director in that role. But so we're doing that together at the beginning of the year, and that poem that she's performing is called Dream. So that piece will be called Dream. Piece number 2 that we're going to be working on right after that is over is basically us working together, she as writer, me as dramaturg, for the whole year, developing a play that she's been wanting to write about like a local artist. And I will be the dramaturg for her play. And we are working under the auspices of the new play dramaturgy class that I have to take in my MFA program this spring. So we have that class this spring. And then we also then have a production associated with that class in the fall. So spring 2018 is the class, and then fall 2018 is the production aspect of the class. And so the entire year I'll get to work with Teray on her play, doing research, giving feedback, helping to break open the play, helping her to do what it is she wants to do, being the liaison between her and whoever will be directing the production of her piece in the fall. And it's just very exciting. So the spring will be a time of development and dramaturgy. Development dramaturgy for me and development for her in terms of writing the play. In the summer, we'll probably be dealing with a lot of edits and feedback sessions between the two of us. And then in the fall, that's when I will be with the rest of my class and cohort. We will be organizing a series of week-long workshops where we'll bring her play into the studio. We'll be casting actors to do either a reading or sort of like a reading blocking of the play. And we'll also be dealing with being directors. So I probably will not direct. I might direct her piece, actually. But to be very honest, if you're a dramaturging a playwright, it's actually, in my opinion, a little iffy and potentially unethical for you to then also be the director, because the dramaturg is supposed to be the liaison between the director and the playwright, and is also supposed to be the advocate for the playwright. So I probably, unfortunately, won't be able to direct her piece. But then if not, I have a very particular person in mind who I do want to direct her piece. And that's pretty much the only person I will accept at this point. But no shade, honestly. But this is a piece dealing with issues and people of color. And I prefer those who are familiar with, culture and cultural background and, just codes and lingo to be the co-creators of this piece. In the fall, I will be dramaturging her piece in a week-long workshop to help her really see how the piece is sitting, see how it's working or not working. She can take notes, she can make edits, she can, really help to develop her work. She can actually hear the work so that she can continue the development process. And I will be the liaison between her and one of the my cohort members who will be directing the session, directing the piece. And then after that, after they are after Teray is done making edits, at least the first round of edits, because the play is never really ever done. At least we playwrights really never feel like their work is done, but after Teray is done with the first round of edits, then we're going to work towards putting on an actual full production of her play in the studio series at the University of Arizona. And so this entire year is going to be me working in a sort of fluid dramaturg director capacity with this wonderful artist and playwright. And it's just a really wonderful way to start to emerge as a dramaturg and act, what I call an in-action dramaturg, dealing with actual real-life pieces and real people, and not just dealing with scholarship. So that's my opportunity for that. But then on top of that, I also get to start directing a little bit. And this will be sort of a major collaboration, not just between myself and Teray, but between myself, her, and then my other cohort members who also will have playwrights who they are working with. We don't get to direct the pieces that we're dramaturging, but we do get to direct the other pieces of other people's work. We get to direct others' work. So, someone from my cohort will be directing Teray's work in the studio workshop, and probably in the production itself. And I will be dramaturging it. But then likewise, I will get to direct someone else's work in the workshop and during the production creation process as well. So basically this year for directing is going to be on fleek in terms of really training me to become a better director for the stage and for film. That is just one of the many reasons why I am how I'm getting ninja trained in directing. But then also we have our experimental dramaturgy class in the fall of 2018, which will have, I believe, some directorial components to it. And then we have our spring 2018 production, which is basically the production aspect of a course that we just finished for this semester. So I will have literally 4 major opportunities to really improve my directorial skills, and I'm super excited for what 2018 is going to hold. Now that I've gone through all of that, though, as you can see, graduate school is providing some really amazing opportunities for creative work and creative process and for growth in directing and all those things. But it unfortunately pissed me the fuck off. And I'm sorry to get kind of gangster and rude, but these past 3 weeks have been very challenging for me in terms of dealing with the politics and the bureaucracy and sort of I don't even want to call it the underhandedness, because that sounds very sinister. But in terms of dealing with sort of the latent tensions, let's put it that way, the latent tensions that are in the graduate program around the series that we call the studio series. And this is not me trying to like, tattletale on the program, but what I noticed is that we are still very much striving to create a more seamless integration with the MFA program and what is actually going on in the real life studio series and the repertory series that we have going on at University of Arizona. Right now, we are doing a major overhaul of the studio series so that it becomes a more process-focused space, whereas ART is more of the product-focused space. You just go there to see shows. The studio series is now becoming a space where work is going to be put into process. So that's a great way to sort of complement rather, it will become a great complement to the repertory series, which is so product focused. But the problem, unfortunately, is that we have a very strange setup in our graduate program, and not even in the graduate program, in the theater department, wherein we have two distinct group of theater students. And this even crosses over to the film department, but without the same amount of tension. But we have the BFA theater students and we have the BA theater students. And the BFA theater students are basically the ones who have tried out for the musical theater program and like the bigger stage program, who want to be either actors or stage managers or crew, because there are different positions that you can apply for in the BFA. And the thing with the BFA, BA distinction is that if you don't get into the BFA program, or if you're cut from the BFA program, you are still allowed to pursue the BA. Now, the problem with that is that the BFA students and the BA students are offered completely different opportunities in the program. The BA students not even up until this point, to this point and still are only allowed to participate in the smaller studio series, which is basically, again, a black box series that we are now overhauling and rehauling to become a more process-oriented series. Whereas the BFA students are the ones who are allowed to act on the main stage productions, which include musicals, which include, the more classic plays and pieces like Shakespeare, the more well-known ones. The ones that we've had recently have included Tigers Be Still, Proof, Streetcar Named Desire. We have a Shakespeare every single year. So this year, I believe, is The Merchant of Venice. We've had what else have we had on there? There's another one that kind of slipped my mind, but these are the Pajama Game. So we basically like put a lot of the classical stuff on the larger main stage, and only the BFAs are allowed to audition for those and get positions for those. And as a result, unfortunately, this also causes a little bit of arrogance amongst the BFAs, just as like a side effect of all of this. The arrogance is annoying. And the division between the two groups of students is very painful and it's very difficult. And so because of this distinction, we have we are very, it's stupid and nobody likes it, and we have no idea why this is even happening. But as a result, the dramaturgs who are rehauling the studio series are essentially obligated to only pull their actors from the BA pool, because this is really the only opportunity that the BAs have to act on stage. For me personally, I have no problem with that. Obviously, we all want to present as many opportunities to the disenfranchised actors and actresses in the BA program. And yes, I did use the term disenfranchised. I don't care. That's what it is. They're discriminated against, and sorry, just deal with it. Because they have to deal with it. And this is just the truth of the program. So I have no problem prioritizing BA students for what we're doing in the studio series. The issue that I've run into as a Black theater maker and as a Black artist is that obviously I want to engage with work that is engage with my culture, that helps basically to put Black voices and Black perspectives on the stage, and not just Black, people of color too. Like, I have no problem with like putting other pieces and other voices on stage, but you know, being a Black theater maker who very rarely sees you know, many Black directors like getting these new works onto the stage, my entire purpose in this program and in my path as an artist is to provide opportunities to those voices and to those people who don't really have as many opportunities in the field of art. That's what Rebel Ragdoll is about, and that's what my personal MO as a Black theater maker is about. And the thing is, though, is that we're in the middle of Arizona. So literally in the entire state, I believe there's only, of all the different backgrounds and ethnicities that are in this state, only 3 to 6% of those backgrounds include people who are African American or African or whatever. So as you can imagine, you know, staging Black work is very difficult. It's very difficult because we don't really have many Black actors. We don't have many Black people in the state, period. And so I am currently running into, I wouldn't call it a conflict, but some strange tensions with, you know, my program. And I'm not going to mention particular names, but just like in my program with regard to the fact that like I want to do more work of color on stage, but then I have this political stupid situation with the BA, BFA distinction wherein I can only pull actors from the BA pool. I can't go into the community, for example, or even on the larger campus at this point to find Black actors. I have to pull from the BA pool of actors because we are obligated to, again, provide them opportunities to act, which again, I have no problem with. But as you can see, this sort of forces me to engage in this very, I would say, triggering and unfortunate process of self-erasure where I feel as though I can't stage the kind of work that I want to stage because I can't go and get the Black bodies that I need to be on stage for what I want to stage. Luckily, we were able to work some things out, at least temporarily, with one particular Black actor. I believe we have like literally 2 or 3 Black actors in this whole freaking program, which is a problem in and of itself. So luckily, like, we were able to find, you know, a couple of Black actors who might be able to be in the piece that we're producing for the spring. And we'll get into that piece in just a minute, which anyway, I'm not going to throw too much shade, but the piece, in my opinion, the subject matter is something I'm not completely excited about. But I, like, the whole thing with this is that, like, now that we have pinpointed these Black actors, right? Apparently it's up to me, because I'm the one who wants to stage the Black work, to, like, basically put the effort into recruiting these Black actors. And I'm trying to, like, be very careful about my words. It's not that our supervisor has certainly been, you know, very open and very, like, engaged and, like, wants to give assistance in helping to find the actors that we need. But it puts sort of a weird, unfair burden on me, like, well, if you want Black actors, like, you have to make the effort to find them. That's kind of how I'm feeling a little bit, except I'm getting that feeling in a more covert, hidden way. And so it's something that, because it's not overt, it's hard to point my finger at it and to, like, say, hey, like, you're sort of othering me in this process of putting Black work on this stage because you're making me responsible for the diversity factor. Which I realize that Black people or people of color are usually responsible for the diversity factor in anything that they want to do, but it kind of shifts a lot of the responsibility off of the infrastructure of the program to engage in diverse recruiting practices. It shifts that responsibility from the program and its infrastructure onto the individual students. And so I'm trying to walk a fine line between what are my producerial responsibilities, and what is going to be good for me in developing my producerial skills, versus are they trying to train me to be a real producer, or are they just being lazy and making me solve what is actually an institutional problem that they need to be addressing directly? And so I'm trying to walk that fine line, because I have no problem recruiting, I have no problem producing, I have no problem at all trying to personally recruit Black actors. But I don't feel as though the responsibilities of walking that fine political line and diverse recruitment should fall solely on the shoulders of the one Black dramaturg and director in the program. It should be a concern that is an institutional concern, and not just a concern, but something that we are working actively towards, like deconstructing this sort of institutional barrier so that we can just get more people of color into the program. You know what I'm saying? Like, that should be something that we are actively working towards on an institutional level, not shifting all that responsibility onto the one person or the two people of color in the dramaturgy program. So again, I'm not ungrateful for the experience of having to do this. Apparently this is something that Black artists and people of color who are artists have to do. We have to do this in the real world of theater making. We just can't leave it up to our colleagues. It is our responsibility to send the ladder down, send the elevator down, and to actively develop new voices of color, and also get people of color and their works into the studio, onto the stage. That is definitely our responsibility. At the same time, I really don't take kindly to the whole, well, you're the one who wants the Black actor, so, go do your Black thing, and you're responsible for recruiting this Black actor. Although, again, I feel like this is happening in a very latent way, not in an obvious way, because, again, my supervisor has been very open and helpful in terms of trying to help me recruit in a Black actor. So I'm just getting all these really weird, annoying political vibes from my program and from the theater school at U of A, and it's annoying, and it pisses me off. Because at one point I thought my supervisor was even saying, because he was presenting to me the political problems of the department with the BFA and the BAs, which we already know. This is no secret. But in the email that I got, it sort of was implied that because he was emphasizing the fact that we have to draw from the BA pool, I assumed that he was saying, well, because we have to draw from the BA pool, we can't do any, your Black interpretation of what we're trying to do. So I responded by saying, are you seriously saying that, even if I have to recruit a Black actor from campus or the community, that's going to be a problem, even though it's one Black actor? And so we kind of got into a slight altercation over that. And it was a mix of miscommunication and just me jumping the gun to a certain extent. But again, I'm the kind of person, I don't read into everything, but to me, there are always three layers of there are always three layers to communication. The first is what you're actually saying. The second is what you actually mean beneath your words. And the third is what you're not saying. So I always take those three components into account when I'm trying to understand how truthful somebody's being to me and how much integrity that person is acting with. People will always talk all this shit on the surface, but what they're really trying to say is A, B, and C. And what they're not saying is D, E, and F. You know what I'm saying? And so, I'm very intuitive. So once you start to really tune in to people, their personalities, and you know what their agendas and what their concerns are, you can always really understand what a person is actually trying to say. On top of it, just be aware of the fact that 80% of our communication is not through words, it's through body language, and it's through, in my opinion, their actions. So I was really reading that finding a Black actor in the BA program was going to be a challenge. And so, I don't know. So anyway, having said all that, now we're dealing with all this weird political shit that I don't want to fucking deal with. And I know that this is sort of a part of the process, but this is sort of what has brought me to my conclusion, basically, about graduate school. and having to, quote, get permission to make the art that I want to fucking make. And just the ability to stand on my beliefs and say, you know what, like, I know that these are the boundaries of the MFA program. These are the boundaries of the graduate school, of the theater department, but fuck your boundaries. Like, if I wanted boundaries, I would have gone to work in a cubicle at Credit Suisse First Boston, crunching numbers all day. You know, like, I would have chosen deliberately those concrete premises and pretexts within which I can just work like a mindless drone, and I don't challenge the system. I don't challenge the boundaries, and I just make 10 times the money I'm making right now. And I go home every day, and that's it. Like, I would have chosen a path wherein I wanted boundaries. But I find it very annoying, and this could just be me being spoiled, and if it is, I don't care. I find it annoying that, like, you know, we're literally starving artists, although, you know, I don't support that entire ideology, but I have to just, like, tell you where we are right now. Where we are right now is in starving artist mode. We're starving artists, and we still can't be free. Like, we have freed ourselves from the capitalist system of art making, but we're still self-imposing all of these stupid ass rules and these politics and this bureaucracy that is limiting the kind of art that we can make. It's one thing if I'm saying, hey, I need all this technical pyrotechnic stuff on stage and we just can't afford it. Like, that's a boundary that we can't really change, is the money boundary so much. But in terms of, like, casting and, like, those simple problems, I feel like those are simple problems that can be very easily solved. We have in our program self-imposed this matrix of ridiculous political red tape that they want me to trip over and to acknowledge, because we don't have enough Black actors and we don't have enough wherewithal to realize, like, where the BFA BA distinction is causing problems. Like, and so as a result, I have sort of decided, I did this last year and I'm doing it again this year, to recuse myself from creating art in an academic context, because it's just too much drama. No pun intended, but I prefer for the drama to stay on the stage and not to be behind the fucking scenes. So that's one reason why I have this attitude towards, I don't need your fucking permission to make the kind of art that I need to make or to recruit the actors that I want to recruit. But another reason is that I've noticed too that, once again, towards the end of the semester, our graduate school experience, even though it's been wonderful this semester, I have virtually no complaints about the experience. We have sort of once again stepped back into a space where scholarship is trying, in my opinion, to be like the prima donna in terms of how I make my art. And I just really need people to understand that I don't give a fuck about theory or academia or scholarship, except for in very specific contexts. And I don't really know how to I keep trying to explain this to everybody in my program, and I feel as though they just refuse to take me seriously. Like, I really don't give a fuck about what every single scholar in the world has had to say about Titus fucking Andronicus. Like, I don't care about the fact that some classical dramaturgs choose to include an entire scholarly list of, you know, obscure fucking articles on, you know, philology and philosophy of Shakespeare's works, along with a bibliography and whatever. Like, I do not care. Like, for me, scholarship belongs in a very specific context. And this is the context wherein I feel scholarship is very, very helpful. Scholarship is the first and last line of defense against bullshit, in terms of the fact that, like, scholarship will not allow you to engage with alternative facts. Scholarship will not allow you to make up things about what happened in history and in culture. Like, I'm talking about rigorous, peer-reviewed, good scholarship, okay? No alternative facts, no lies, no bullshit, okay? It gives us a really solid foundation through actual rigorous study of first primary sources and secondary and tertiary sources as to what was going on in various points in history around, like in certain cultures, in certain civilizations. It helps you to understand, for example, in the case of Shakespeare, what the day-to-day life of Shakespeare might have been. How might have an Elizabethan audience receive certain, parts of his work, etc. This is where scholarship really shines. It shines in terms of illuminating the truth, or at least trying to put together the best representation of the truth of what has happened in our world's history and in our culture. I feel like that is where scholarship really, really shines for me personally. It also shines in terms of giving us the opportunity to have different philosophical interpretations of someone's work. I find this to be a little less useful because an individual's interpretation is just that. But it's interesting to see, for example, Shakespeare from a different perspective, because it might give you some ideas as to how to, for example, it might give you some ideas on how to freshen Shakespeare up, or shake Shakespeare up. Or turn an interpretation of Shakespeare on its head. I feel like that is very helpful. But for me, scholarship belongs in a very specific place in my artistic and dramaturgical process. And I find that certain individuals have, in my opinion, privileged theory and scholarship a little bit too much and expect me to do the same, when really I'm just trying to make some fucking awesome ass art. And it's annoying, I just want to make my shit. I don't want to have to sit and justify to you why making it in this way is important. To me, art does not exist to justify anything. That's your job as a scholar, is to sit and justify shit. Me as an artist is just, I exist to take my interpretation of the world and translate it into various forms and mediums that I find to be a latent and innate expression of who I am and my interpretation on the world. That is what art means to me. And so the message I have been getting, or that I got in the last week of my program, is that I need to start focusing a little bit more on the theory and, the scholarship around, certain things that I'm trying to do. And I would care if I'm trying to make an academic argument, for example, about Shakespeare. For example, if I wanted to be a Shakespearean scholar, and argue with other scholars in the field, just as a practice on what Shakespeare was trying to do with his work, then by all means, I need to dive headfirst into the ivory tower, academia, and into the scholarship and know that shit like a Jedi warrior. But for me, as an artist, the only reason why I even do historical research on the things that I'm interested in is because history helps to inform and to provide a more solid foundation for my art that I can choose to depart from at any time. I don't have to be married to a scholarly interpretation of my art, but it's just another piece of material amongst all the other materials that I can use in order to inform my art. So the fact that I use different materials and scholarship to inform my art or to answer certain questions, and that is the only place I see fitting for scholarship in my own personal journey, seems to be a problem with certain folks in my program. And I just need everybody just to back the fuck up off of me, and let me do my own thing. So this is sort of just another reason why I am annoyed, because I just feel like at every turn, people are, maybe I'm misinterpreting what they're trying to get me to do, but I feel like people are trying to get me to beg for or ask for permission to make my fucking art, and I'm not going to do that. Fuck you. This is me putting the fuck you back in the MFA program. I came here to make shit. I didn't come here to make things stupidly and in an uninformed way. But for me, scholarship is literally just a small piece of a larger machine of intersecting information, intersecting perspectives, and it's not something that I want to privilege, So the major thing that I'm going to get into here, because this is all sounding a little bit obscure, is that I am doing a very distinct rereading of Shakespeare's works. I believe people often want to categorize Shakespeare's canons into three particular categories: the history plays, the comedies, and the tragedies. And that's fine. But for me, I don't find that particularly useful. All right. Because I feel as though, being an artist myself and being a brand creator myself of intellectual properties and various series and stuff like that, there are always themes that inform our work. There are always questions that inform our work. And there are always smaller arcs in the larger playing field of our work. And I believe Shakespeare was no different. So if you guys know anything about Shakespeare, you might know that he wrote a bunch of amazing plays, but he wrote 4 plays, which are commonly referred to as the Roman plays. And people often, in my opinion, have a hard time understanding the place of the Roman plays in Shakespeare's work. Antony and Cleopatra is often dismissed as like some sappy, ridiculous love story. Julius Caesar, is probably the one that's offered the most respect amongst the Roman plays in terms of looking at dictatorship and power, and of course the very interesting history point of the fact that Caesar was assassinated by his own crew. And then you have Titus Andronicus, which is often dismissed as just like a gory, bloody display of blood and guts and rape, and so people don't take Titus as seriously. And then I very rarely hear anybody talking about or even staging Coriolanus. But my entire theory about those 4 different plays is that, sure, individually that those 4 Roman plays might not be taken seriously or might seem very light in their subject matter or very base or primal in their subject matter. I believe Shakespeare was actually trying to create an entire story arc around the rise and the fall of the Roman Empire, period. I actually call those personally not the Roman plays, but the Roman history tetralogy. And if you look at the essential core premises behind each of these plays, Coriolanus, Julius Caesar, Antony and Cleopatra, and Titus Andronicus, the core premises and the key themes of each play literally fall in a chronological order. If you put them in the right order, it's a chronology of the rise and the fall of the Roman Empire. For example, Coriolanus dealt specifically with, in my opinion, Shakespeare was making a commentary on the transition of Rome from a monarchy into a republic. And if you read Coriolanus, the major theme of that play itself is the fact that Coriolanus, who's, I believe, a general or like a high-ranking official, is struggling with getting the larger populace to take him seriously because they see him as this aristocratic figure who has trouble relating to the common people. Coriolanus also refers directly to the last king, the seventh and last king of the Roman Empire prior to the Roman Empire becoming a republic. And so this is actually, in my opinion, Shakespeare's Act 1 in looking at how the Roman Empire as a republic rose and fell. And he starts that entire story arc with Coriolanus. Then we go into Julius Caesar, who is, in my opinion, a cautionary tale towards anyone who was trying to essentially turn Rome back into a monarchistic dictatorship. Julius Caesar, as we know, did not want to release his power after becoming, a general that basically made his name off protecting Rome, and was quite good at what he did. And eventually they ended up assassinating Caesar for various reasons. And one of his closest friends was Brutus, who turned on him as well because they wanted to preserve Roman democracy, the Roman Republic. Antony and Cleopatra as a work. Shakespeare's work follows closely behind the assassination of Caesar, looking at not just the romance between Mark Antony and Cleopatra, but looking at sort of taking a brief look at the romance that Cleopatra had with Caesar, who was assassinated, and how she then parlayed that into a romance with another very powerful, high-ranking man in Roman society, Mark Antony, and how that caused a lot of tension between Antony and Octavius, who was basically, they were co-running Rome, and Octavius wanted Antony to marry his sister, Octavia, I believe her name was. And Antony, he was like, nope, I'm chilling with Cleopatra. And this was a huge scandal because basically Rome, Octavius ran a major propaganda machine against this marriage between Antony and Cleopatra. I think they were married officially, but for a while they were just shacking up. Ultimately, Octavius, because he feared that Egypt was going to then take Rome over, he waged war against Antony and Cleopatra and Egypt, and he won. So we know the ending of Antony and Cleopatra. They commit suicide, and Cleopatra is basically this bad, the baddest bitch in North African history in terms of the influence and power she had over a Roman emperor and one of the other most powerful men in Rome. And so you cannot look at Julius Caesar and Antony and Cleopatra together and say that they are not connected, both in theme and in historical chronology. You cannot tell me that Shakespeare did not know what he was doing when he wrote Coriolanus, Caesar, and Antony and Cleopatra as a chronicling of the rise and the fall of the Roman Republic. You cannot tell me that. And people want to point to this in the last, installment of this Roman history tetralogy that I've identified is Titus Andronicus. And Titus, at first blush, does not seem to reflect any sort of chronology in the Roman history tetralogy. But if you look a little closer, you'll realize that Titus Andronicus is essentially a metaphor for the fall of Rome at the hands of the Goths. Okay. And then it also kind of harks to the fall of the Goths, or the last Gothic kingdom, at the hands of the Moors. And if you can't see this metaphor, I don't really know what to tell you. And this is something that, again, if I were a scholar, I would literally make this my life's work, studying not just Shakespeare, but the Roman history tetralogy and connecting all the points in his work to the actual real life events of the rise and the fall of the Roman Republic. And I know that I'd be right. But Titus Andronicus, essentially, if you know the story, basically a major general in the Roman army, and they're fighting the Goths right now, in that work rather, is taken down by the conquered queen of the Goths. Not only does she take down this high Roman general and his entire house almost, but she also ends up taking down the Roman emperor. So this to me most definitely, at least metaphorically, harks to what would eventually be the fall of the Roman Empire at the hands of the Goths. And if you know anything about Roman history or the history of the empire, the Goths are often credited with being the major factor in the fall of the Roman Empire. And scholars have also shown that Shakespeare would have been very well aware of the progression of Roman history from beginning to end. So I feel as though Shakespeare's Roman plays have gotten a lot of flack in the analysis of their subject matter and in their themes, but I think that that's because that they are not being taken in the context in which they're supposed to be taken, which is that they're supposed to be they're supposed to be read in a specific order. and with specific metaphorical extrapolations from the play itself to certain points in Roman history, starting with the rise of the Republic all the way to the fall of the Roman Empire. And so because I made that argument in my dramaturgical protocol, which people in the room were super impressed. I mean, even my advisor, she was deeply impressed with my work on Shakespeare. And if there had been any major scholarly delves into that part of Shakespeare's work, then she would have told me. She probably will actually inform me more as we work together on this in the future. So I feel as though I have stumbled upon a very, and this is not to give me like crazy credit. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I'm really proud of this discovery that I have stumbled upon in understanding Shakespeare's work in a very different way than other people have, both on the scholarly side and on the artistic side, which is then what spawned my desire to create that 6-film adaptation of the Roman history plays, but just, modernized and put in a crime noir, magical realist context. And so this is sort of where I am split and I'm angry as an artist who is constantly being kind of pushed into like a scholarly space. I'm sort of being asked to prove what it is I'm trying to say, and I get that to a certain degree. But for me exploring this new perspective on Shakespeare, for me, is an exploratory analysis and an interpretation of Shakespeare. It's not something that I feel as though I need to turn into a series of scholarly articles and make my life's work. I'm proud of the discovery. I'm glad that I stumbled on it. I've been able to break open the Roman history tetralogy in many ways that I feel are, for me personally, mind-blowing, and that I hope will become mind-blowing for other people. And I might actually write some more popular literature on my interpretation of Shakespeare, but I have no intention of trying to prove myself to the Academy just because. To me, every single historical exploration I make and discovery I make is in service to my art. So, I have no problem if another scholar goes and does this work, as long as they credit me with, not a finder's fee, but like finder's credit. But I feel like, so in my portfolio review, it was very well received. People really loved the interpretations. They just loved it. Like, I felt like I really impressed everyone in the room. And then came like the scholarly interrogation of like, don't do this, do that. I have a hard time buying in, one of the people on the committee, who I'm not even sure if this is like their real opinion or if they're just trying to like look like a better scholar. I don't know what's going on, but that this one person did not buy, even though they're not even like familiar really with Shakespeare like that, didn't really buy into the argument I was putting forward, which is fine. But it's just sort of like, I felt that it sort of moved into like, this is my interpretation of Shakespeare, into prove to me that this is actually true. No, I don't have to prove to you that this is true unless I'm trying to be a scholar and trying to like, change the landscape of what's been done. And I'm not trying to do that. So the fact that I was being asked to give more evidence was not the problem for me. The problem for me was in feeling as though I have to, again, and sort of like getting this vibe that I have to ask permission to make art. I could literally turn Shakespeare into a series of fucking hardcore porn, like Shakespeare inspired porn, and I don't have to fucking explain to anybody why I'm doing that. Now, for some people, that is the most atrocious travesty ever to have graced Shakespeare's, the interpretation of Shakespeare. For other people, they would probably really enjoy, a Shakespearean series on, Shakespearean porn series, whatever. My whole thing as an artist is that I chose art because I want to be free. I chose art because I don't feel like I have to explain myself to people. I don't feel like most people are asked to prove that their art is worth making. They're not asked to get permission to make their art. They just do it. And so I really resent the various ways in which I am constantly tapped to ask permission or to beg permission to make what the fuck I want to fucking make. You know, it's like if I'm going to be broke and poor and a starving artist temporarily, because you know how I feel about investing. But if I'm going to be a broke ass starving artist, if I'm going to be a broke bitch, basically, I'm going to do what the fuck I want to fucking do. And you can either come and see it or you cannot. Like, there are literally artists out there, no kidding, who are shitting in bowls in public and calling it art. Now, it's not an art that I'm really interested in seeing, you know, or smearing, you know, shit all over, you know, the Mary Magdalene, or like, not Mary Magdalene, but over like, you know, the Virgin Mary, and hanging toilet seats on it and calling it art. And they're not fucking explaining why they did it. You know, I mean, and this is like those are extreme examples, but like Da Vinci and Picasso and whatever, like, I'm sure they were influenced by other people at their time that they were doing their work and growing their style. And having artistic and scholarly influences is great. That's very different from asking permission to do art and to prove that you can, quote, play classical music before you make your own interpretation of your own music. Those are two very different things. Like, they didn't have to spend time, you know what I'm saying? Like, trying to like justify why they were doing what they were doing. Like, and some of them never got popular until after they died because people didn't understand what they were doing. Maybe they couldn't explain it properly. They couldn't relate it properly to what's going on. But that's not the point. Because the point is that literally hundreds of years later, we're still talking about Picasso and Da Vinci because they did what the fuck they wanted to do. Whether they were influenced by the current scholarship or the current trends or not, like, they have their own style. Cezanne has his own style. Some of the greatest, you know, artists of all time, like, I'm sure they pulled influences from the people and the things around them and that came before them, but they did not wait to ask permission. And I'm not going to sit here and continually ask permission to cast black actors because of the political bullshit in the department. I'm not going to continue to ask permission to develop a 6-film adaptation of the Shakespearean Roman history tetralogy simply because you don't buy that it's a tetralogy. I don't care if you don't buy it. I'm going to fucking do it because I can see a clear parallel between the metaphors and the themes and the characters and the subject matter of these plays with what was actually happening in Roman history. And if you don't see it, bye, peace. You know what I'm saying? That's totally fine. You don't have to agree, but I do not have to ask permission. So anyway, I'm going to end on that note, not end the whole podcast. I'm actually going to end in about 10 minutes, but just end my frustration with graduate school on that particular note, because generally grad school this semester has been really wonderful, but just dealing with the whole, we have to look more high-minded by engaging with theories that are not really relevant to what we're trying to do, and by privileging scholarship over everything else really fucking annoys me. And I just needed to get that off my chest, and I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to participate in it. I'm not going to really acknowledge it, and I damn sure I'm not going to participate in the political and bureaucratic erasure of black bodies off the stage because, again, you expect me to ask permission. I'm not going to deal with any of that. So I will actually end this podcast with the wonderful, great things that I got from this semester, because this is a long ass podcast and I'm getting super tired. One thing that I really pulled from this semester was that my TA-ship certainly taught me a lot about prioritization. And I think that I prioritized my grading a lot more than it should have been in terms of not just like time wise and for what I should have been doing this semester, but just as a whole. Like, I love to teach, I do, but not in that capacity, not in that environment. And I certainly do not love grading almost 7,000 papers. Rather, I split most of my grading with another TA, so it was close to like 3,500. But I had a lot of grading. 3,500 pages of grading. I want to be very specific and not inflate what I was actually doing. But we had about 13 assignments. 5 of those were pop quizzes, but the rest of them, the other 8 or 9 assignments, were literally papers that were literally anywhere between 4 to 10 pages long. And just on the conservative side, you know, that gave us a total of 7,000 pages to grade and read, which to me, in my personal, even splitting that in half with my co-TA, I would say I gave her about a third of the grading, a third to a half, depending on how big the stack was. It was just a lot. It was a little bit too much, because I had so many other things to do in graduate school. And being that this was like my second go around with grad school, I had already been trained, like literally trained mentally, spiritually, physically, to take TAing within a certain context. All of my professors straight up told me, you are not here to engage in the slave wage practice of massive grading and massive, you know, lots of office hours or whatever. They said, take your job seriously, but you are here to become a scholar. You're here to become a researcher, and you need to privilege your work and your research and your classes, really your research and your work, above TAing and above your classes, but especially above TAing. And so this was the first time that I was sort of forced to prioritize my TA-ship above my classwork, above my artistic work. And I don't have a problem grading, but I ultimately, like, I didn't come here to be a TA. I came here to develop as an artist. And so I'm trying to keep that in my front view as I go forward. And so in that vein, I actually applied for a different TA class, which will hopefully lighten the load a little bit, but also be more directly involved with what I actually want to do, which is filmmaking. So I am TAing this amazing, I think I told you guys this amazing horror class in the film department next semester, and I am like psyched. I'm super psyched. Of course, I couldn't escape theater completely. I actually have 2 TA assignments, one in the film department and one in the theater department. So I'm TAing the horror film class, but also the theater appreciation class. So we'll see how that goes. But I expect the grading to be a little bit lessened, at least, and more geared, at the least, if it's not lessened, it's more geared towards what I actually want to do when I leave here. So we'll see. But I have learned to certainly deprioritize the TA-ship a little bit more. And, you know, the grading really was very excessive. And I looked around at my other colleagues and cohort members, and no one had nearly the amount of grading that I did for any of their classes. And it was a struggle, because I had 3 classes, and then my dramaturgy for Adam's Family. And then I'm a mom. So and it's not anybody's fault that I'm a mom. I'm not asking anybody to like take the blame or responsibility for that. But I have the least amount of time, in my opinion, amongst my cohort members, aside from one other who has a job, but the most TA grading work, which is insane. And we're all getting paid the same amount. So I was like, no, I'm not going to do that again. Let's go forward and do something different. So that was a major lesson that I learned, but it was definitely a lesson in time management. Let's put it that way. And on a positive note, the editing class that I took was amazing. I mean, I have no complaints. My teacher was incredible. He taught us so many different things, from montage editing to documentary editing to narrative editing. We learned about sound editing. We learned about effects. We learned about coloring. And then we got a lot of experience with editing. We had 4 major projects and then like 7 minor homework projects from this Avid editing textbook. We also had some readings, some very light readings to give us different perspectives on editing that we had to write journal entries for. And then we had to do an editing analysis, which really raised my game up by 1,000%, because it really forced me to slow a clip down. It was just like a 2.5 minute clip. It forced me to slow it down and really understand every single choice that an editor is making, literally from second to second in a film. I believe there were almost 200 edits made in that 1.5 clip that I chose to analyze. And the clip was from one of my favorite movies of all time, action movie, of course, The Raid. It was actually The Raid 2. And I was editing the hallway fight scene. I'm not even going to go into it. If you haven't seen the hallway fight scene, go see the damn movie. The movie is amazing. Both movies are amazing. Really, in my opinion, two of the best action movies made in a very, very long time, like ever. And I learned so much. I learned about how action movies are edited, how certain edits are kind of tweaked and tricked to make punches seem harder, to make the action go faster. I learned about action editing pacing. I learned about choices in storytelling in an action scene, because there is a story in every action scene. I don't care what you say. There is a dramatic structure to each scene in any sort of movie, including action scenes and fight scenes. So there's a exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, denouement. You can't argue me on this, because I can literally point at any movie and break it down for you and show you what's going on. And so I learned about all of this in doing this one assignment. And we were supposed to write like a 2 to 3 page write-up. I wrote like a almost 10-page write-up on this 1.5 minute action scene. And then at the end of the class, we had our 2 final projects. One of them was like an indie sort of self-reflective student film, which I think I did a really great job on, despite the fact that I have some technical issues to work out. And then because I'm a graduate student and the only grad student in that class, I had to do an extra project. And so I chose to cut an action scene from this amazing course from Film Editing Pro. I've told you guys about this several times in the past, but it's called The Art of Action Editing. And I had to complete their program, which I only completed 50% of the actual lessons. And then I just started editing the action scene on my own. So I completed half of their program, and then I just started editing the scene on my own. And I'm super proud of how it came out. There's still some technical glitches. There's still some things that I have to work out. The audio, which I'm always shitty on, has to be worked out. And then there's some cuts that I know that need to be sort of scrubbed and done better or whatever. There's some space and some air in the scene that I can take out. After taking like a 2-day break from it and coming back and look at it fresh, I see some things I can improve on. But the 4 main projects, those journal entries, that editing analysis, the 7 minor avid editing projects, the weekly lessons, and then the final action editing project that I had to do gave me such an amazing, solid foundation in editing. And I feel as though I have all the skills that I need in order to proceed in developing myself as an editor, both as a narrative editor, but also as an action editor and filmmaker. And I also really do now want to focus very, very closely on audio editing for movies, because I feel like that's just an important skill to have. On my own films, I'll probably have a sound guy and an audio sound mixer person, just to like fix the shit that I can't do correctly in the editing room. But learning all the tools myself and then being able to pass on those responsibilities to other members who specialize in those areas, I think is the best way to go. And I have no complaints on that class. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, I couldn't give any feedback on the class because I was in a special segment of the course, which was a $5.99 independent study. But the class was amazing, and I have noticed myself improving over time, and I loved it. It was just an amazing class. Another major thing that I was doing, going back to the issue of directing my own pieces, a contemporary trends class that I was in really helped me to develop myself as like a writer, a devised artist, a dramaturg, and a director. And the one major thing that I felt held me back from developing as much as I could as a director was the fact that I had to perform in the piece that I was putting together, and I couldn't get the bird's eye view of what was happening on stage the way that I wanted to. I couldn't really hear the words. I couldn't experience my own work. I couldn't really experience the vision because I was so busy trying to like make the vision happen. And that was the annoying part. That was the only really major annoying part for me about the class, is that I couldn't get that directorial perspective. But as a divisor, I think I got a lot of experience, and I talked to you guys about this a few weeks ago about how I feel like I'm developing the skills and learning and owning the elements of the stage. I'm not quite as good as everybody else, but I'm getting there, and I'm really excited about that. So one major thing that came out of the contemporary trends class is that I realized that music, dance, and lyrics as alongside text is just as important to me as the other elements of the stage. And so this is officially, between this class and my classical dramaturgy class, wherein I made all those discoveries on Shakespeare, which were great. I really realized that I have a very strong interest in writing and developing musicals. I've always loved musicals. It's always been my favorite theatrical form, personally. That and like smaller black box performances have been sort of my two the ones that I relate to the most. Either get really intimate with me or give me spectacle and give me song and dance, is how I feel. I guess I swing to the extremes. But so I developed a deep interest between those two classes in musical theater, and I realized that musical theater is often condescended to by other theater makers in the field, and that's for a variety of reasons, but I realized that as an African-American woman who comes from a culture that is very deeply invested in song, dance, movement, expression, exuberance, enthusiasm, like I feel like those are things that are sort of inherent to my culture. And not to say that Black people only know how to sing and dance and all that. We can do it very well, but like, that's not all that we are. We are in the arts, we are in the sciences, we are in tech, we are in sports, we are in different areas of life. But just as a way of life, as a way of existing, song and dance, lyrical ability very much is entrenched in our culture. The development and evolution of language in and of itself as like a lyrical process is very much ingrained into the Black aesthetic. And that's something that I want to engage with and translate to the stage. So I will be starting probably in the summer of next year, just looking more deeply into learning more about musical theater. Again, that's a professional skill that I want to sort of learn a little bit at a time. And I'm not a songwriter. I think I could be, but I'm a long way away from being good at it. Let's put it that way. And I'm certainly not a composer, although I don't feel like it's outside. I don't feel like anything is really completely outside of my ability. I just need to focus on it and hone those skills and study it. But in terms of like putting together a musical, I would love to do a Black Baptist church musical adaptation of Tartuffe. So I have a little bit of work to do, not now, maybe not even this coming year, probably not until 2019, like middle of 2019, but just looking into other musicals, studying the gospel at Colonists or Colonist, things like that. So a lot of wonderful things and projects are coming out of my graduate school experience, even if I do experience a lot of frustration with the scholarship, the theoretical perspectives, and the politics of the program. So I guess finally the thing that I really pulled from the program was the fact that, like, which also informs like the fact that I want to write musicals, is my work on the Addams Family. I can't say that I know how to dramaturg a musical. I feel like I did a lot of the basic things around the musical, which as a dramaturg, which included doing the website for theme and context, creating and presenting a pre-show, creating and presenting a post-show, writing the program note, and going to rehearsal, like one rehearsal, and just being a resource if the director needed me. I feel like I did a lot of the basic stuff around dramaturging a musical, but I feel as though there is definitely a space for development dramaturgs in musicals, and I want to explore that space. On top of it, I was finally, as a dramaturg, able to see how a musical is actually set up, because I had access to the script, and I had not only access to the lyrics and the book, which together are called a libretto, but I also had access to the sheet music, which is the score. So now I have sort of like an understanding of the basic building blocks of a musical, upon which I can now start to develop my own musical theater writing talent, or which doesn't exist, but I hope will exist for me in the future. And yeah, so I mean, the only thing really that I want to sort of leave off with, because this podcast is now over 2 hours long, this is what happens when I go away for 3 weeks, is that recently, I have, because I've been so busy and crazy, I haven't really had as much time to spend just taking care of myself and spending time with my little girl. And so basically the rest of this vacation, up until literally the day before we have to come back to school, is going to be me taking care of myself, sleeping, relaxing, eating, exercising, most definitely, because I want to get back into that. I mean, I exercise every day, but I want to like do a focused hour-long high cardio, weightlifting sort of program. I want to do that, spend more time with my sweet, sweet baby, who just had her Christmas pageant recently at her daycare, and it was so cute. And I'm just like so in love with her and everything that she is and she does. And so yeah, right now it's about self-care and just being present, enjoying the holidays with my daughter. And if I can get back home to visit for a few days to a week, I want to do that, to go home and visit my family. But, this is pretty much the end of my grad school semester. I feel like I finished really strong. I pulled a lot of amazing things out of this semester. And, I'm still going to be struggling with some of the political, bureaucratic issues in my program. Again, with casting, with erasure, with privileging theory and scholarship over art. But I'm going to endeavor through, and I'm going to stand as an example to myself and to other people that this art thing, that this MFA thing can be done in different ways, from different perspectives, and that we all have different strengths. There are people in my cohort we're all good at different things. A close friend of mine, I feel like she's really wonderful with text and with devised pieces, and being a really relatable, wonderful, but firm director. I feel like she's good at that. I feel like there's another, and that she's emerging into that. Another cohort member is apparently, is a wonderful artist, amazing artist. And I hope that they never, ever stop making art, because they are just amazing. But also just becoming way more invested than I am in the academic scholarship side of, art or whatever, particularly with regard to pedagogy. So, and research, but more so pedagogy and teaching. So they're going off into that direction. The other cohort member is, in my opinion, like very good at classical dramaturgy, and also good at telling people what to do, and moving bodies around on stage according to the past producerial and directorial experience that they've had. So she's gonna be a really wonderful director. And very good at diving into classical established pieces, and maybe in like maybe will be a really great literary manager. For me, my strengths are taking what is in existence and getting something completely new out of it. My strength is leadership, in terms of creating a space where there is no space for voices of color, creating innovative ways of approaching text, innovative ways of approaching productions in both film and via the stage, taking, not just regurgitating information, but evolving information, evolving perspective, evolving, process. Definitely my strengths are with developing voices of color, and looking at something not for what it is, but also for like its potential. I have a very strong perspective on life and on my art and on the things that I study. And all of my professors, to some degree or another, have given me feedback that's rang the same, which is that I make bold choices. I have a strong voice, and I have a very particular perspective. And I have been getting that feedback ever since I've been here. I've been getting that feedback ever since I first published my novel. And so this is not to say that I'm not open to other perspectives, but it's clear that I've developed my own way of doing things, and that's never going to change. And that's reflective not just in the program and not just in my personal career as an author and as a filmmaker, but in just the very premise of Rebel Ragdoll as a business, Rebel Ragdoll as a mission. Like, what I do is make new, innovative shit. And I find a way to make it work, and I find a way to build an audience around it. So I think those are my strengths. And I think that all the things that I'm learning in terms of being a director, a deviser, a screenwriter, a playwright, all these things that I'm learning in the program, being an editor, being a filmmaker, are helping me to solidify and hone my skills so that when I put a twist on something, I can do it well. And I can do it effectively and in a way that's compelling. And so I don't feel like I have finished at all learning all the things I need to learn about being an artist. I probably will never be done learning, which is great. But I think right now I already know what it is I want to do and how I want to do it. I'm just trying to learn the skills that I need in order to basically execute these projects in the most badass way possible. And that's sort of where I am in my personal journey. And it's just sort of nice looking around the cohort and the program and realizing that there's a place for all of us in our own particular perspectives and our particular paths. And I'm going to continue forging my own path regardless of what people have to say about it. I'm not very good in terms of following the pack. I try, but I'm kind of like a bloodhound, like I can follow the pack for a while, but if I catch a scent that's interesting to me, I'm going to go follow it. And it doesn't mean that I'm wrong or I'm unteachable. It just means that I have my own mind. And I will always be able to find my way back to the pack. And usually that will be me at the front. So I will end that on a semi-arrogant note. Yeah, thank you for staying with me and sticking with me and through this long ass this long as vlog update. Next week I will not be having nearly like as much to say, but I will definitely be just giving you just a regular old update on what I've been doing in the past. I don't know, what's the day? So I'm going to post this podcast on December 18th, Monday, which is tomorrow. And the December 25th podcast is going to be like a short Merry Christmas podcast, honestly, with just updating you on the things that I've been doing between December 18th to December 24th. So that will be my Merry Christmas podcast. It'll be podcast number 51. And then number 52, you will get on December 31st, which is a Sunday, basically giving you that's going to be long. So just strap in, whatever, grab like your breakfast or whatever you need to do. That's going to be my Creative Achievement 2017 roundup and wrap up. So I'm going to give you an update as to what I've achieved this entire year in 13 different areas of my existence. So you can choose, and it'll be time marked, so you can choose which ones you want to listen to. But I feel inspired, I feel happy, I feel grateful, and I feel blessed. Despite my challenges, I feel like I'm in a really great place just in many areas of my life, and I feel very lucky and fortunate. So I don't want you guys to think that in my critique of graduate school, or scholarship, or academia that I don't appreciate the experience. I do. I just have very strong opinions as to where I need to be in that experience. And I'm constantly fighting against other people who are telling me where I should be. Because I know where I need to be. I'm a grown-ass woman. I'm not like in my early 20s figuring out who I am. I know who I am. And so I am keeping myself open to different perspectives while also not forgetting who I am. And so I just want to let you guys know that I'm doing that, but I'm also still very grateful and very excited. And just an FYI, for that last podcast I will be putting out on December 31st, that 2017 wrap-up podcast. I'll also be going through my happiness and creative achievements jar, which I've been stuffing full of achievements this entire year. And we'll see what I've actually stumbled upon and what great things have been happening in my career and in life. So that's going to, again, be a long podcast, but you guys know me. I'm not really short-winded. But having said that, please go and download your free box sets at our new Adult Noir giveaway. It's amazing. And thank you so much for being with me on my journey, for listening to all my crazy podcasts and updates and my angst and my attitude, but also sticking with me through my accomplishments and my failures. For those of you who are listening, I hope that you find some kind of inspiration and strength, or just a friend in these podcasts. I really do. And, I'm grateful for you guys, along with everything else that's going on in my life. We have to really sit back and think about the things that we're fortunate about, that we're fortunate to have, and that we are fortunate to experience. And I think the holidays are always a great opportunity to be happy, fulfilled, humble, and grateful, and to really understand where we're blessed in our lives. So with that, I will leave you guys. So happy writing, happy creating, kick ass, stay badass, stay indie, and I will talk to you guys next week. Bye. I'm going to go try that poached egg recipe. Wish me luck. Peace.